Hello and welcome to Constellation League, a Warhammer podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Scott.
And I'm Paul.
And today's therapy session will be getting into competitive 40K, playing in leagues, and a little bit of kill team. Um, I was telling Paul just before we started recording that competitive 40K has lost a little bit of its shine for me right now.
Mm,
Um, And I don't know that it's so much because I'm so terrible at the game, or it's just that I've been mostly playing Votan, and
hmm
Votan, as we know, does not currently have a new codex.
hmm
They did get a detachment through Grotmas. It wasn't that
hmm
great. They made a
hmm
slight change in the most recent data slate with the whole judgment tokens and how that kind of plays out, which helps the new detachment a little bit, I
Right.
think. Um, but I don't think it's ultimately changing too much of the game, at least as far as I can see,
hmm
or have been thinking about it. So it's one of those things where I've consciously decided to kind of take a pause, and that's why, fans of the show will know I'm more into the kill team right now and
Yeah.
been enjoying that despite having a 8 to 9 game losing streak with my Votan in there as well,
Recently
which
broken.
recently broken because I switched factions. So, so that losing streak is over. I at least got a win under my belt this
hmm
past weekend playing with my Phobos Space Marines,
Right.
which was a nice little change of pace from playing the Angels of Death Space Marine list.
hmm
Um, so it's been fun getting back into an elite team. It does feel a little bit like cheating because they have more activations or not, sorry, not more activations, more actions that they can perform in an activation
Right.
versus the other teams. And they've got a higher wound count, so they can take more of a beating
Right.
and still hand out some stuff. So it feels a little cheap that way, but I don't really care. I got a win. I needed a win.
You needed a win.
I needed a win.
I remember texting back and forth, and I was under the impression that I'm like, that's it. Scott's out of Warhammer. And I mean, this is us recording. It's been over a month since our last episode, just with like work
Yeah.
and like family stuff, and then of course you're back at school and things like that, so it's hard
Yeah.
to coordinate. But yeah, I mean, I definitely have it. I'm in a period of like 40K kind of malaise or
Yep.
boredom. For sure. I'm playing in a 40K league, which I've been enjoying. I've only played 2 games so far, and I've enjoyed them. But having said that, it is not as I don't get as excited about it as I do when I have like an AOS game coming up and
Right.
things like that. And uh, I'm kind of at the point where Vanguard Tactics did a video recently about like how to deal with um, motivation for 40K. And they had something about a checklist and about like reviewing how your games went and stuff like that. I'm having a hard time being motivated to play it. So never mind
Yeah.
reviewing my lists and like taking stock of like what I am not enjoying about it. Um,
Hmm.
I found from the last 2 league games I played. So I'm in a 40K league out here in Kingston. My first game was against a guy named Jordan Racy. Great guy, had an awesome like had a super fun game playing with
Hmm.
him. Like he was a awesome guy to play with, and really enjoyed it. But I played. He ran Custodes, and he was running the. Let me just look it up because I want to get this right. I think it's the solar. I think it's
It's the new one, isn't it?
the
The
new
one
one.
that gives the dreadnoughts kind of the super abilities and stuff.
Yes.
The Grotmist detachment.
Oh, the list doesn't want to cooperate right now. But he was running the dreadnought, venerable dreadnought focused detachment. So I think he had like 3 venerable dreadnoughts, a Telemon heavy
Hmm.
dreadnought, which is like the special Forge World kind of model. I think he only had one Gladius tank, and then a couple of units of Wardens,
Yeah.
with a Blade Champion in each unit.
Hmm.
Um, and I
Competitive.
competitive, like super great list. Like
Yeah,
looked like a lot of fun to play. On the playing against side, I
not so fun.
am a terrible 40K player, and I build this list. I ran my Black Templars because I wanted to go back to them. They were painted, so I
Yeah,
wanted to play something that was already painted that I wouldn't have to focus on that part. And B, I wanted to play something that I was somewhat familiar with and that hadn't had a codex yet.
fair enough.
So I was like, it was going to be Black Templars or Death Guard. So I decided Black Templars just to go back to them.
Which in and of itself is a tricky decision to go with a
Mhm.
team that doesn't have. So you're stuck with your index or Grotmist
Yeah,
detachments.
and I'll totally touch on that because I find, you know, yeah, let's pull over here and talk about that. So I thought the index thing was brilliant when the edition launched.
Totally brilliant. It was.
I
It
th
is a great idea.
I think it's a great idea. No one's using a book from a previous edition that is, maybe getting FAQ'd, maybe not getting FAQ'd. Uh, Everyone has fresh rules and fresh army formations, all that right out of the gate, start of edition. So I thought it was cool. And coming from Heresy, I was used to that because
Yeah,
Heresy, everything launched at the same time, right? So I was down with that. But now we're 3 years into it. Is that right?
like
This is
two and a
the end.
half to 3 years. Yeah, you're right.
We're
Yeah.
next summer, so not this summer coming up, but summer 26,
Hmm.
11th edition will be out, probably July.
Yeah.
And, there's no book for Death Guard, though there's one coming soon.
Hmm.
We're recording this a week out from the Adepticon
Yeah.
preview show, which was absolutely boring. And probably the worst preview I've seen since getting into the hobby because there was not a thing in it that I found interesting.
Well, there was no
I don't play,
heresy whatsoever,
there was no heresy whatsoever.
which is it's on its 3 year cycle, so it should have been
Yeah,
getting
I don't think,
some
I don't
kind of
think, I
thing,
don't think
a
Necromunda,
specialty.
Lord of the Rings, Old World, and Heresy of the
Specialty
GW
games aren't getting
specialty
there.
games, I don't think they're on 3 year cycles. And in fact, the fact that there was no heresy preview for this show, um, you know, I
Yeah.
think that indicated that. But yeah, the Adepticon thing, I was like, Space Wolves, the models look cool. I'm not a Space Wolf player.
Yeah.
Um, but I was like, that is that preview worthy? Like a couple updates, maybe who knows? I didn't, for me, I was like, meh. And then okay, a Tyranid kill team. I think the Tyranid terrain looks like crap. It looks more like an objective marker set than
I'm
anything
not big on
else.
the terrain, but I love the idea of the models and the fact that it's a 5 unit team.
Yeah,
Super elite kind of idea is really
yeah,
great. But like, yeah, it could have been a Warcom article.
right. So it just what didn't have that drive. Like you're expecting something big, right? And I personally was expecting something big. Like if they're gonna do uh, a big reveal, it should have been like something more.
And they,
Um,
to be fair, they did for Old World.
Oh,
Or
okay, of course. Yeah, that's a whole brand new army, isn't it? The
yeah,
the Cathay or whatever.
Cathay, yeah.
Um,
But again, we don't
that
play that,
I don't
so
play Old World, so maybe for our Old World fans, maybe that was a great reveal because yeah, they did unveil this brand new army for Warhammer Fantasy,
and
the
they
Old
look
World.
amazing. The models look
Yeah,
fantastic for
those
it.
terracotta warrior things, those big statue guys, that looks like as a hobby project, I was like, wow, that's
Yeah, it looks
amazing.
stunning.
So yeah, fair enough. Uh,
But
and
that
then
was
the
it.
that
That
was
was
it.
really
The
it.
AOS reveal, I mean, I can't even think of what it was
It
off the top of my
wasn't it
head.
like a spearhead thing or something like that,
Oh,
or
the new Spearhead edition, which Spearhead's awesome. It is super accessible. You can play it in an hour. Uh, I really like Spearhead, but yeah, that's right. It was the hey, there's a new Spearhead coming out, and the new General Handbook is coming out,
right?
which is like okay,
But
you
even
know.
that stuff, they didn't really like. Even when it came to 40K, like the new mission pack and stuff like that, I don't feel like they really went into detail about it. It was like, hey, one's coming out and it's got new detachment or um, new map layouts,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean there was some
and that's it. And then it kind of goes over it, and you're like,
in the
well,
war in the Warhammer community article, I think they dig into it a little bit more and they talk about how there's games for incursion, so 1,000 point games,
yeah.
which might be
In
an interesting spice for tournament play.
I mean, it sounds like that'll get rid of combat patrol.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because what's the point of combat patrol if you can just do 1,000 point incursion
Right.
game
With
instead?
maps designed for 1,000 point games.
Yeah,
So, I mean, and that could be a fun idea for just doing an incursion tournament. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah. That
Especially
would be
for,
great fun.
right, 1,000 point games, they'll go much faster. You could probably get, five in a day, depending
Hmm.
on the pace. Um, Almost like the Kingston's homebrewed Secret Santa
Yep.
tournaments, right? Except with a little bit more structure and
Yeah.
or the Welcome to Edition tournaments, which
It's a lot
are
more
always a
variety in it.
blast, but that
Hmm.
Shannon puts on. But yeah, all that to say, like the there wasn't anything to really like be get pumped about, you know what I mean, about the game. And I hopefully hopefully it is the new mission pack will be the injection that the game needs. I find I'm at the point where so for example, playing this Solar Spearhead list, uh, he's run the just taking one unit and making three copies of the same unit and then facing that formula
Yeah, that's
all
brutal.
the it feels like I face that all the time in 40K.
Yeah,
Like that formula of like this thing is great, I'm gonna take three of them
yeah.
and three of them and max them out
It feels
for
spammy, and it
and it's
feels
just sort of like oh and it's boring to play.
the thing that I've found. Sorry to interrupt for a minute, but the thing that I've found is the and this is kind of a no shit statement, Scott, but for those armies that have a codex, they are at a distinct super advantage to those that are just on index.
Hmm.
Um,
Yep, for
the
sure.
the index balance is like balance, I say kind of loosely, is completely gone now.
Hmm.
It's not quite at the, ninth edition where you were seeing like everybody, the next codex that came out was completely broken and broke the game and that kind of thing.
Right.
Um, but it's not far off.
No.
It's not far off from that. Like when the Emperor's Children I think they still have the best battle line in the game for
Yeah.
everything that they can do. When the new Death Guard and World Eaters and Thousand Sons, I think when they all come out, well, they're going to have something that's the best in the game too for
Hmm.
whatever they come out with. Like it just feels like there's that creep that's happening now of
Hmm.
each codec makes that army just better and better and better. And so
Hmm.
when you're on a faction that hasn't had shit,
Hmm.
you're like, well, do I switch over to something just to try and eke something out, or like it gets really hard that way, I think.
Yeah. No, I'd agree with that. And like, so when you're running Space Marines, right? Everyone says, really the best detachment's Gladius. Right now, the way the
Ultramarines
rules
and
are,
Gladius.
it's like Ultramarines and Gladius. And even then, like, I think a lot of people still will take, even Black Templars and run Gladius rather
Hmm.
than run um,
Yep.
the Index detachment.
They don't get the
Uh,
bonus to the Oath of Moment stuff, but at least they get the
no, they don't.
flexibility in
But the Black
the Gladius
Templar
stuff.
units don't. But
Right.
any of the ones that aren't Black Templar units would.
Yes.
So you could run, I mean, that's Space Marines in 40K are just weird, I think.
Yeah.
Being a heresy player, it's just sort of like I
Pick a lane.
yeah, yeah. But there's no legions, right? So it's I there and there's homebrewed chapters of Space Marines, so
Yeah.
there's no way of like kind of fixing it. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I just find that part has gotten a little bit stale for me. Um, there's only two books on the horizon that I'd consider getting, and that's the Black Templars one and the Death Guard one.
Hmm.
Uh, but even then, that's a maybe for me. And then maybe it's because we've really gotten out of the habit of going to tournaments. Because tournaments are fun, and it's been ages since I've played in one.
Yeah, same here.
And so maybe it's that's part of the, lack of interest
Hmm.
or motivation to play is just getting out of the habit of it. Um, but yeah, there just seems to be it feels like it's missing something, and it also I think part of me is aware of the fact that well, there's a new edition dropping in a year, and so it's like, how much do I want to invest still in 10th when everything could change in
Hmm.
11th? Um,
If in
you know,
fact it's 11 and not 10.5, like some people think it might be, or if it's going to be
I think they'll call
iterative.
it 11th, but it'll probably be an iteration of 10th because I think 10th is super accessible,
Yeah.
which is a pro. I think they'll continue with that level of accessibility. I think I'd like to see, from a playing standpoint, I'd like to see more of a focus on battle line units than
Yeah.
uh, the just bring three of something. You know what I mean? It
A
would
little bit more
be
granularity wouldn't be bad.
well, at least it would offer more of a, because at the end of the day, I think a lot of Warhammer, and this goes for AOS and everything else, you can um, you can spend enough to do better. You know what I mean?
You
So
can pay to win for
you can
sure,
pay to win,
to a
or
certain
not
extent.
necess to a certain extent. Like
Yeah.
I don't want to diminish anyone's skill as like a player because absolutely, like there are players out there that can take the worst army and win games,
Yeah.
hands down. Um, but there certainly is like if you've got enough bank, then you can,
You can make your list better for
you can make
sure.
your list a lot better. And Black Templars, if I wanted to, like a better list, the list I'm running, or there's various iterations of it, but the basic list I kind of run is like Helbrecht, who's their chapter master, who's a great model and very fun to play. He's got cool rules. Uh, with a squad of 10 Primaris Crusaders, and then typically there'll be five Sword Brethren. I've got a couple Ballistus Dreadnoughts because even with the points update, I think they're well worth it for adding shooting and they're maneuverable. My Repulsor Executioner because
Hmm.
I like it's a fun model and it's fun to roll a lot of dice. A squad of Scouts, a squad of Reavers for doing actions and secondaries. The Outriders, one squad of Outriders, again, maneuverable, easy to get on objectives, do secondaries, that sort of thing. And then I bring my Cerastus Knight Lancer because I bought it for Heresy. It doesn't get much play, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna play games
Hmm.
with this thing as my big kind of beat stick. And I mean, my list building, is, middling at best. I look at it on paper and think, oh, this is good. I've got stuff that can do everything. And then I go in against Custodes and they just pick up units left, right, and center.
Yeah.
And I have a hard time taking down their units. I mean, that's just the nature, I think, of the game. And,
Hmm.
in the story, the narrative of the game, Custodes should not be easily beat.
Yeah.
Um, so that's how that goes. But if I wanted to really maximize the Templar's potential, I'd go Horde and I'd run 3 units of 20 Primaris Crusaders.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And probably forgo the Knight Lancer and buy like uh, what's it called? Uh, Not the, how the repulsor executioner, what's the tank down from it that still has like the laser heavy destroyers?
The Lancer?
Is it just a Lancer?
I think so.
because I think they're only 100 and something points, maybe
Yeah.
180 or something like that.
Yeah.
So
The
you'd get a couple of
Gladiator.
those, the Gladiator Lancer, get a
Hmm.
couple of those. You know what I mean? I would put the money in to basically build the list.
Yeah.
Uh, and that's just not an appealing way to play the game for me.
Yeah.
Um, and right now, I'm pretty heavily focused on AOS. I've got a couple of events coming up in the near future, and I don't feel like I have to do that as much. Um,
That's really that's what was bothering me mostly about the competitive stuff and even playing in
mhm,
some league stuff and things like that. Like I have a bunch of toys I want to play with them,
mhm,
but I don't want to get to a table and feel like, oh, my toys suck.
mhm.
And that's kind of the feeling I've been having,
Yeah.
where it's like, okay, I can bring all this, like even I can bring a fun list, I can bring something that I think will work, and then, oh shit, it clearly doesn't work. Okay,
Mhm,
learning experience, that's not a good thing for fun. But if you're playing it and it's just like over and over and over, and you're going against the lists that are like maxed out and are really, really in the meta and the competitive of their faction's meta, you're kind of
mhm.
like, okay, I don't have any there's no feel good moment in this for me.
No,
There's no
no.
fun in that just coming in and being like, should I just shake your hand right now and say good game?
Yeah. Especially you coming from being a Votan player, right? No rerolls, which is
Which is
like
hard against a lot of armies. Like
a lot of armies have rerolls.
and there's a
They can
lot of
reroll
people.
something.
There's a lot of people that can play Votan really, really well. Nick, that we've had on the show,
Yep.
took it to Worlds, can play it really, really well. I'm not at that level. So
No.
going up against people that have kind of re-rolls and some shenanigans and stuff like that, and I'm like, oh, I can kind of hit better. I can hit on threes instead of fours with against this one unit if
Mm.
I fucking remember that rule
Yeah.
because I'm an idiot.
Well, yeah, but there's also that whole like, and like, okay, you hit a little bit better, but then you don't get any rerolls.
No,
Like,
there's
I don't
nothing
think
to
there's many
re-roll.
reroll. There's no like rerolling hit rolls of one or anything like that. There's
Not
none
that
of
I
that,
can remember, and there might be now. I don't think there's any like, oh no, there is a fallback in charge type of thing, but
right?
there's like some stuff like that where you're like, okay, once you're in, and you're kind of screwed. Like they're not a good melee army is
Hmm.
another thing. So going up again, anything in melee, and you're like, well, okay. There are a couple of units that can maybe handle it. I know people will
Hmm.
be like berserkers, or whatever, but yeah, berserkers, yeah, but they're squishy as hell.
Yeah,
So they can get shot off the board before you're even able to do anything with them.
yeah. Delivering them's hard, and I don't think do any of your transports have assault.
No, I don't think they do.
So how do you
I'd have to.
deliver a melee unit? You know what I mean? For an alpha strike, it's not like you can drive a land fortress up the
Yeah,
board.
the land fortress doesn't have an assault ramp or anything like that. It's
And
like,
neither do the buggies, I
no,
don't think.
no.
So how do you move a unit up the board, let them exit, they get there within 3 inches, do their move, and then
No.
it needs more units.
It does. It needs a
It
lot more
needs it
units.
needs a codex and it needs more units. And then so kind of to circle back, it's almost like the codex releases should have been all within the first year. Like
That's what I'm feeling like. They've spread them out, and I know there's production schedules and all that kind of stuff that hold it
Well,
back,
it's a business. It's got to make money, and doing this allows them to make money. And
but it's impacted playability, I think, in
yeah,
some of it. For those
for
that,
sure.
again, it's for those that play competitive. If you just want to roll some dice
Yeah,
with your friends, it doesn't matter.
homebrew
It's not
games,
an issue.
it won't be an issue whatsoever. Um, but yeah, so I've had two league games. I played Custodes for both ones. The first one played against Jordan. Jordan ran that Solar Spearhead or whatever with the Venerable Dreadnoughts. Lost that game. I think it was like 56 to 31. Um,
Not bad.
I had a lot of fun playing them. I made the mistakes I make are like using expensive units to do things like cleanse or like
Yeah.
I was too focused on like getting on an objective and doing a secondary without thinking about, well, he's just going to move here, charge me, and I'm going to be stuck in combat
Hmm.
and not to get to use that unit most effectively. And then my second game was a game against a guy named Andrew Foster, and another great guy. I had a lot of fun playing with Andrew, but was into Custodes again. And I think he had two Gladius tanks. He ran, I think it was Shield Host,
Okay.
which is the one that I think lets you crit on fives,
Yeah, yeah, I believe it does.
something like that. And then uh, he ran that. I think he had a couple units of bikes. And then lots of, I don't think he might have only had one unit of wardens, and then his other units were just regular custodians.
Okay.
But again, it was like it felt like an uphill battle the whole time for me. I mean, the bikes getting the glow up and shooting
Hmm.
was really big, and I mean the custodies, so everything hits on twos. I don't have anything that makes them minus to hit. Uh,
Well, and you're
everything.
hitting, yeah, like you're rolling fives to try and damage them or something, because aren't they like
Yeah, yeah.
toughness
Their
six,
toughness is
seven?
six. Toughness is six on I think regular custodians, and then it's seven on the bikes. Uh, like yeah, it's just an uphill battle.
Hmm.
Lost that game too. Didn't think that one was too bad. What was the score on that one? Uh, 81 to 59.
It's not too bad.
So I
You're scoring decent points
yeah,
into
and I
these
was pretty
games.
happy with how I played. The first game against Jordan, I made like a couple tactical errors where I was like, oh, that shouldn't have went into that.
Hmm.
Um, I definitely played the second game better, uh, but just my units don't perform as well, and uh, yeah, there was a couple things like I tweaked the list, throw in something different each
Hmm.
time. I've thrown assault centurions in every list, and they get shot off the board every time before they can
Yep.
even do anything because
Yep.
they've got meltas and they're pretty punchy and they're two up save. But um, I'm determined. I'm determined to make them work somehow. I gotta figure out how to do it, but
Throw them in your execution.
I don't think they. Yeah, I think they can fit. Yeah, they can if I
But
don't put
it
anything
would,
else in it.
yeah, if nothing else goes in, they're the only
Yeah,
things that'll fit.
yeah. And my new list, I've got like I put a Justiciar with the Primaris Crusader squad, so that they'll
Hmm.
get fight first. So that's a big like chew. Just a lot of rolling on fights first, so that would be good, I think. And then I throw in Helbrecht and a Castellan and five Sword Brethren into the repulsor just to sort of intimidate something and hopefully get
Hmm.
them out and beat somebody up. But maybe I'll put the
It's worth a
Assault
try just
Centurions.
to try
Yeah,
and
why
get them
not?
up the board a little bit.
hmm and I keep playing with the Lancer because I'm like, why not? It's built, it's painted. At some point, it's gonna get that Titan,
Hmm.
that free tank shock off at some point.
I,
But
like I say, I like playing with the toys that I've got. So if
yeah,
there's one that I like, I want to put it in a list. I don't want to feel like I can't take it.
definitely, definitely. Yeah, so that's where I've got a game coming up in the near future with Tyranids, and we'll see how that goes. I've only ever played against Tyranids once. So things like that, I think, keep me somewhat interested. And I'm going to stick with the league. It's not like I'm going to pack it in. And if they do another league, I'll probably play in it as well. But
Hmm.
maybe I have to go back to Necrons. Maybe it's playing the Templars isn't as enticing, or maybe Death Guard, play them. But
Hmm.
yeah, that's kind of where I'm at
Yeah, it's
with
a hard
40K.
one. I haven't been, I was tempted to join the Durham 40K league that was out here,
hmm
but with school and stuff taking up weekends, it's just,
Too much of a time commitment right
it'd be
now.
too much with it. It would be fun. And I know, I mean, it sounds ridiculous being in a kill team league, but a kill team can be an hour and a half to 2 hour game and
Yeah,
you're in and out type of
yeah.
thing. It's a lot easier. And I prioritize spending time with Sam kind of
Sure.
thing
Yeah, no,
to
it's
do
certainly
that.
easier when you're like, well, the two of us have ga league games scheduled for Saturday morning. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's less of a, so that works out better. I am I'm pretty pumped about AOS. As we talked, the Battle Scroll update came out and didn't
Hmm.
really. I'm I've switched to from Slaves to Darkness to Lumineth, and I've been painting furiously, and I'm determined to get 2,000 points painted for the end of May for the Ottawa Grand Tournament. I've gotten a practice game in with the Lumineth as this was before the Battle Scroll update.
Hmm.
So really enjoyed playing them.
I was gonna
Had a
say
ton of
that'll be a
fun.
very different play style too.
Very different. I got shooting finally,
Yep.
which is nice, which is a nice change. And yeah, no, I'm really, really into it at the moment. Um, but yeah, I think for 40K, I'm sticking with it, but I think I'll be just more, I don't know.
It's a tarnished silver right now. It's not
It's
quite as
not quite
shiny as
as
it could be.
shiny. It's just a little less exciting at the moment. I
Yeah.
think one of the things that made me switch from Necrons is I'm like, well, they're not getting any new models. There's no new units going to come out for Necrons until 11th,
Yeah.
unless there's some big
And
narrative, end of
even
edition
then,
narrative. But even then,
it'll be
not
a
likely.
leader of some sort.
Yeah, it'll be a character unit in an army box.
And I feel like
Uh,
he'll be holding an orb.
right?
Like
Like it's
the
just sort
variety is
of
not really there.
no, or it'll be like the when they introduced uh what was that Chaos Dark Mechanicum character at the end of
Um,
ninth. He's like the big villain. He's like a big robot guy with
oh,
like
isn't that Vashtor?
Vashtor.
Yeah, the
So they
Demon
released
Prince.
Vashtor with the old version of Deathwing Knights, and then they released the new Deathwing Knights like
Hmm.
I don't know, like a year later. It was just sort of like, oh, if you bought that
Yeah.
box to get your hands on Vashtor, you weren't even getting new characters with it.
Hmm.
On the Space Marine side of the box, it was just like, oh,
Yeah.
so I could see them doing something like that, but it all depends, I guess, where it is in the lore,
Hmm.
end of edition lore. I mean, yeah, who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? Who knows? But that's kind of where 40K is at. It's a still plugging away at it.
It's still a
Less.
fun game. I don't want to make it sound
Oh,
like I don't enjoy 40K.
mm-hmm,
I enjoy playing the pickup games. It's the
mm-hmm,
competitive aspect of the just the meta chasing and that kind of thing. It's just not something I'm into. I don't.
right.
I'm not 100% that a competitive 40K is actually something I'm interested in. I still
Yeah.
like going to tournaments to get a game in,
Mm-hmm.
but it's the ultra competitive component to it where I'm like, okay.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see after I play. I've got two AOS tournaments coming up,
Hmm.
and one of them I expect to be very competitive, which is the 2-day GT at the Canadian Tabletop Champions in Ottawa.
Hmm.
So it'll be interesting to see that because I do know, of course, it like all Warhammer games have that ability of like you throw money at it, you can reproduce units and
Yeah.
potentially win games. But maybe I'm naive, but I'm somewhat optimistic that you can still like outplay people in AOS maxing, without buying three of the best unit or running three of the best unit.
Right. Maybe.
Path to victory is obviously a thing,
Yep.
who you end up playing, but like I feel like because, you got to stand on circles and then, there's a good chunk of the battle tactics just require you to have units in certain places.
Hmm.
So if you can do a couple of those things, you can keep a game pretty close and you can
And
still win games after being tabled.
and from what I remember, it's not like it's not like the terrain plays as big a component in it
Mm.
as like blocking areas and things like that. Like
Yeah,
it's
there's no
pretty
real,
open on
it's
all the
pretty
games I've
open.
seen.
Yeah, even when you watch the like Seasons of War and things like that, like terrain comes into effect, if people are on terrain features and they get
Hmm.
the benefit of like the obscuring keyword and things like that. But by and large, because objectives, you can't set the terrain isn't set up like on an objective.
Right.
You are standing in the open,
Yep.
either charging someone or waiting to be charged. And I mean, the fact that all units make objectives sticky in
Hmm.
AOS kind of moves it along better. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? There's no sitting and standing and surviving on circles. You're always pushing forward to get on more and things like that. So, but we'll see. That's a to be continued for sure to see if the competitive aspect of it is very much the same.
I'm looking forward to you getting out to a 2 day and seeing what that's like.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, Kill Team, you finished a tournament not that long ago, a
Finished the
couple weeks
tournament.
back.
Yep. Didn't do too bad. I think I won one of my games that was there. Lost the other two. Um, it was fun. I played into an Angels of Death team and beat them, which was interesting. It surprised both me and my opponent. Um, because it was on the I believe it was the boarding actions type of. Oh no, it wasn't. It was Volcus. So it was the like city terrain type of stuff that we were able to get into. But I got off a couple good alpha strikes on some people.
Nice.
It's easier when I have 10 models and they've got six, and some of my
Yeah.
stuff can actually punch up
Okay.
with grudge tokens and stuff. So I managed to, with my beamer
Hmm.
weapon, it fires through
Hmm.
other models. So I was able to do a thing where a guy was obscured or
Hmm.
in cover, and I wasn't able to use him as a valid target, but the guy directly behind him was a totally valid target. So I took my beamer weapon and I shot the guy behind him, which meant I was able to inflict some damage on him right away. So I
Oh,
managed to do some chip damage on him, which then made him easier to kill the next time around.
nice.
Um, so just some things like that where I was actually able to play a little strategically and a little clever and do some
Hmm.
stuff. It really paid off. So that was a lot of fun. That was a lot
Nice.
of fun. Yeah. So I'm still firmly in like third last place, I think, in the league.
Okay.
But I was up until last weekend, the very last. So I'm moving
So
back
there's
up.
progress. You're crawling out of the basement.
I'm crawling out.
Um,
So
and how many weeks are left in this league?
I've got a game this weekend and then there's next week and that's it. And
Okay.
unfortunately, we won't be able to make it to the next tournament. So
Okay.
we'll have to wait for another month before we can get to that tournament just because of other family commitments.
Nice.
But
Right.
it's been a lot of fun. It's still a fun game. It feels this one doesn't feel so much like a play like spend the money and you get the best box type of thing.
Hmm.
It is really, there are teams that are better than others, but even the worst team can have a better chance of winning if
Right.
they play it right. So it feels that little bit more. Um, it feels that little bit more. Even though I was just bagging on competitive, it feels that competition is there because you're
Hmm.
trying to think of, okay, you've done this. What's the potential next things that you're going to do? Well, it's this and this. So I
Right.
need to think about, okay, how am I going to handle that? Um, or you can just go, you kill my toy, I'm going to kill all your toys. This is
Gotcha.
just, I'm not playing this game and just going in for the kill, which is also a fun way to play.
Yeah. So what is like, what's are the Votan the worst?
No, they're in like in the tier list. They're
Hmm.
in kind of an A plus kind of area. They might have dropped to a B
Hmm.
right now. Angels of Death, kind of a standard Space Marine army, is an S tier.
Hmm.
Um, there's a couple. I would say most of the armies fall within a B to an A kind of
Okay.
area is where they're all kind of clustered. So they
Hmm.
all feel fairly balanced against each
Hmm.
other. Um, Obviously, anything that's Eldari or Space Elves is a really tricky army to play into because they're fast and they've got a lot of shoot and scoot kind of shenanigans. Anything that is Space Marine, Chaos Space Marine is really
Hmm.
tricky because they've got so many wounds and they can do so many actions on an activation.
Hmm.
But then they've just brought out some new stuff. The Blood and Zeal box has just come
Right.
out,
That's right.
which has got some really interesting models in it. Some gore mongers, which have just been added into 40K,
Hmm.
along with the Sanctifiers. And those teams are just crazy for what they can do. Yeah, it's just I think Kill Team's in a really cool spot, and it's
Oh, that's
it's
good.
it's had a lot of it. It feels like it's had a lot more attention than it ever has. So the interest and the variety is really there to be
Oh,
able
that's
to
good.
play it. Yeah,
Yeah, that's encouraging. And I mean, it does have that thing of the list is preset for you, right?
yep, yep.
The box
60,
that you the box
60
that
to
you
80
buy
bucks
is your list. So there's no like,
for the
you
most
know,
part. There's some where it's like you have to get all of the options from a 10-man list. If it's 10 models that come in it, you need to buy two of them to
right.
actually
Okay.
get some of that stuff. There is some of that. But by and large, yeah, it's a predefined list, and you can take any of these operatives with this loadout,
Right.
but that's that. That's your team. You got to figure out how to play with them.
Yeah. No, I
Yeah,
like that.
it is. It's a lot of fun.
Very good.
Hmm.
Well, thanks for listening to us ramble on and moan about 40K.
This is
We'll try and increase the frequency of this and
yeah,
maybe get back into interviewing some folks and
definitely
maybe
get
that'll
some
help
interviews and stuff.
reignite some passion for some of the other or less passionate 40K at the
Hmm. Yeah,
moment.
we'll definitely try and get some more friends back on the podcast and see what we can do. But
All
this has
right.
been fun. Thanks very much for listening, and we will see you next time.